Many breaking news today as we come on the air. Hi and very warm welcome at Amir Shackle 5858. I am Amir Shackle. Following news headlines have been reported by world major English news channels and news agencies. So please watch it.
Sunday. Today calls for Australia to dramatically increase defence spending as Donald Trump's treatment of Ukraine casts a pall over global alliances. Israel slammed for blocking aid into Gaza, the UN's humanitarian chief calling it an alarming violation of international law. Southeast Queensland on alert this week as tropical cyclone Alfred approaches. The fight against the exploding trade in illicit tobacco and the reasons behind its rise. Plus, we'll wrap up all the action from the red carpet arrivals to the big winners at this year's Oscars. Hello, Catherine Robinson with you. Britain, France. Tonight, the state of emergency in the south and the battle to get wildfires under control. Multiple fires erupting across the Carolinas. This wall of flames, look at that, exploding overnight. The largest, more than 1,000 acres, not far from Myrtle Beach. For some, panic in the rush to get out. We're live in the danger zone. Breaking news tonight, Ukraine's president says he's ready to sign a rare minerals deal with the U.S. after that Oval Office showdown with President Trump. Europe rallying behind Ukraine, and here at home, angry demonstrators at the vice president's ski trip. New backlash to cuts to the federal workforce, growing demonstrations at national parks, and the legal fight that could land in front of the Supreme Court. Protests flaring up after a black man was shot and killed in Florida, while some are now calling for justice. A deadly pileup shutting down an Arizona highway after warnings of a windy dust storm. The new security measures in place for Mardi Gras after that New Year's Day terror attack on Bourbon Street. Our exclusive one-on-one with Chipotle's CEO and his plan to try to keep prices stable. If it starts to cost you more for your avocados, you're not going to pass that cost on to your customer? And there's good news tonight. Hollywood star Debbie Allen and these dancers helping a community rise from the ashes.
This is NBC Nightly News with Hallie Jackson.
Tonight, several developing stories as we come on the air. A state of emergency in the Carolinas as wildfires race through both states. Israel cuts off all aid to Gaza while sending a new warning to Hamas. The emergency summit in the UK over Ukraine. And our Oscar preview from the red carpet. First, the wildfires. South Carolina's governor declaring a state of emergency. This blaze near Myrtle Beach doubling in size overnight. Evacuations ordered in both North and South Carolina. Big smoke making driving difficult when they might see some relief. The new cross-country storm raising the fire risk in the southwest and possible tornadoes farther east. How this could impact Mardi Gras, our weather team timing it all out. The situation in Gaza growing more tense. Israel stops all shipments into the territory as major differences emerge on how to move forward with the ceasefire. 2 days after the Oval Office blow-up, Ukraine's President Zelensky meets with NATO and European leaders. The U.S. not attending the London meeting. What the UK and France are doing to stop the fighting in Ukraine. Federal workers face a new Monday deadline. Elon Musk and Doge now threatening to fire anyone who ignores a second email demanding they justify their jobs. Thousands of workers already pushed out. Could foreign countries try to take advantage of disgruntled federal workers? The touching tribute in Washington. U.S. figure skating honors the victims of the deadly midair crash over the Potomac. History on the moon, a flawless touchdown for Blue Ghost, the private company landing on the moon without crashing or falling over, the experiments that could help future astronauts. And countdown to the 97th Academy Awards. Will Timothée Chalamet become the youngest to win Best Actor? Will Demi Moore win for the first time in her 4-decade-long career? Lindsay Davis and Wick Johnson join us from the red carpet.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is World
Tonight, evacuations ordered as wildfires erupt across the Carolinas. Crews battling more than 170 fires, the fast-spreading flames threatening homes and lives. State of emergency in South Carolina.
I've never seen anything like this.
This with storms set to fire up across the South. We'll have the forecast. Also tonight, diplomatic flurry. Leaders from Europe and Canada rally around Ukraine. So do thousands in the streets after that Oval Office blow-up.
I'm Ramy Inocencio in London, where America's allies are pushing for a peace plan in Ukraine that wins American support and backed by boots on the ground.
The war raging on, so is the rhetoric.
Volodymyr Zelensky also fumbled the bag. He was cornered and he was bullied.
New CBS polling tonight on what Americans think of the president's priorities and job cuts. Protests this weekend in national parks. Israel cuts off aid to Gaza.
I'm Deborah Patter in East Jerusalem. A breakdown in the Gaza ceasefire deal as negotiations for a second phase hit a standoff.
Plus, lunar landing, why this touchdown is a historic first. And later, we get to the who's who of Dr. Seuss.
I'm Elise Preston at UC San Diego, where we go inside the archives of one of America's most recognizable authors.
This is the CBS Weekend News from New York.
President Trump dealing a major blow to Venezuela, revoking a license to export oil there, accusing dictator Nicolas Maduro of failing to take back violent migrants. The Venezuelan opposition leader backing Trump's move in an interview with me on Fox Noticias Watch.
Lo que hizo ayer el presidente Trump es fundamental para América Latina porque al final las estructuras criminales no pueden ser tratadas como políticas, sino como criminales. Y lo que procede es el law enforcement approach, la aplicación de la ley. Y eso es exactamente lo que está haciendo el presidente Trump. Nosotros vamos a sacar a Maduro del poder.
Joseph Humeyer is executive director at the Center for a Secure Free Society, and he joins us now. Joseph, welcome. So let's get started with this. It's no surprise, right? Evil, lying, corrupt dictator Maduro doesn't follow through with his end of the bargain, and so Donald Trump removes these Chevron licenses. Explain what they are and why that's so important.
So back when the maximum pressure campaign in 2019, there was an effort by basically the oil lobby to carve out exemptions for specific companies, particularly Chevron, to be able to continue to do basically oil activity inside Venezuela, despite the sanctions. And then when the Biden administration came in, they essentially established that license and began to renew it every 6 months or every year. This is something that the opposition in Venezuela, and you showed the video of Maria Corina Machado, has been very critical of because it thinks it's a big source of revenue for the Maduro regime. It basically gives them some oxygen to continue to repress their people. And when President Trump began his presidency, he got a lot of criticism by the Venezuelan people because they said he's not going to end this oxygen, this Chevron oil license. But the reality of that was that we were trying to talk to Nicolas Maduro about having a relationship that was based on reciprocity, a relationship where he would help us with something that's very critical for the United States, which is deportation flights. So we gave them a chance. We sent them a special envoy. We worked at a deal, and in a period of about a month, he only accepted 2 flights. That's not enough. That's not acceptable. I think President Trump understood that. And so he's not going to be nice to Maduro to be nice to Maduro. He's going to try to work out a deal. If it doesn't work, we know how President Trump reacts, and it's with punitive measures, and that's what happened.
On this Sunday night, shoring up support and military might for Ukraine.
Canada will always stand with Ukraine.
Canada's Prime Minister and other world leaders in London committed to supporting Zelensky. The billions they're pledging in additional military resources after Trump shuts down Ukraine's wartime leader. Backlash. Protesters challenged Trump's #2 as J.D. Vance vacations with his family in Vermont. Why
Israel is cutting off aid to Gaza again. Palestinians scramble to gather essential supplies as the fate of a ceasefire hangs in the balance. And step aside, Florida.
There wasn't just like one thing that was my favorite ice biking, and then the world's largest snow maze.
Why these American travel influencers fell in love with Winnipeg in the dead of winter.
Global National. Reporting tonight, Carolyn Jarvis. French Connections Plus. France 24 at France24.com.
Hello and a warm welcome to you. You're watching Daybreak here on France 24. These are our top stories this hour. Europe pledges to increase its defense spending and says it has a truce deal to propose, as Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky says he's ready to sign a deal with Washington on his country's precious minerals. Accused of breaking international law, Israel stops all aid entering the battered Gaza Strip. The UN and NGOs sound the alarm, saying that some 2 million Palestinians are reliant on that aid. As the first phase of the ceasefire expires, no talks on the second phase taking place. And described as a strip club Cinderella without a fairy tale ending. Anora wins Best Picture at the 97th Academy Awards. It also won Best Actress and Best Director, with Sean Baker in fact taking home 4 Oscars, while Adrian Brody won Best Actor for his performance in The Brutalist. Glad you could join us. Well, also coming up, Europeans hoping to have blast off for their Ariane 6 launcher. It's gearing up to carry out its first commercial mission this Monday, sending a French military intelligence satellite into space, a step towards securing its defense autonomy.
This is Asia Now.
Hello, it's 2 p.m. in Singapore and Hong Kong, 11:30 in New Delhi, 1 o'clock in Jakarta. I'm Angela Lim at this hour. European leaders strive to present a united front to lead peace talks with Russia on the war in Ukraine amid strained ties between Washington and Kyiv. The Philippines says its president is ready to meet Donald Trump as soon as possible, reaffirming that defense deals with the U.S. remain intact. And the damage from Japan's biggest forest fire in decades spreading further, burning more than 2,000 hectares of land since last Thursday. Britain and France are proposing a 1-month truce in Ukraine as Europe doubles down on its commitment to the war-torn country. European leaders pledged more support at a London summit with plans for a new coalition to defend Kyiv. Also at the talks were Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, NATO, and Canada. They met amid concerns about continued U.S. backing after President Donald Trump's heated exchange last week with Ukraine's leader. Now, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told us they are at a crossroads in history and that this was not a moment for more talk.
It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. I'm Yelda Hakim. Our top story this half hour. Ukraine's president tells me he's willing to exchange his presidency for NATO membership and insists he's ready to sign a deal with the US.
It would be a failure if, for example, Ukraine is forced to the ceasefire without any serious security guarantees.
Earlier in the day, a promise from the UK to defend any peace deal with boots on the ground and planes in the air.
We are at a crossroads in history today. This is not a moment for more talk. It's time to act, time to step up and lead.
And an appointment with the king after a tumultuous 48 hours for Ukraine's president in his quest for just and lasting peace.
Also coming up in the programme, Israel halts the flow of goods and aid into Gaza in a standoff over ceasefire talks. And we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages in our press preview from 10:30. Good evening, I'm Yalda Hakim and I'm
Africa News. The news.
The Undersecretary General for Peace Operations Jean-Pierre Lacroix arrived in Beni on Friday to discuss peace efforts in the Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo. The city has become the provisional capital of North Kivu province since Rwanda-backed M23 rebels captured Goma in January. Lacroix expressed the UN's continued support for the DRC in finding a sustainable solution to the fighting.
Nous avons parlé de la situation générale résultant de l'offensive.
We spoke about the general situation resulting from the M23 offensive with the support of the Rwandan armed forces and the catastrophic consequences in many areas, particularly humanitarian, economic and social areas. There are important messages, including the critical need to implement Security Resolution 2773.
Ukrainian soldiers on the 92nd Assault Brigade reflected on the Oval Office spat between US President Donald Trump and his Ukrainian counterpart Volodymyr Zelensky. A soldier argued that both Kyiv and Washington need to make compromises in order to facilitate a peace agreement, adding that Ukraine's security is equally important to both. Another soldier, nicknamed Edo, praised Zelensky and expressed his full support to his president.
I completely stand with the Supreme Commander-in-Chief. Many politicians don't even know what is happening here, which is why conflicts like the one that happened arise.
Another soldier noted that troops on the front lines don't know how to feel about the incident. The spat to them indicated Washington backing away from a role it has exercised for decades, being a guarantor of global security. He also added that without US support, the situation could get very hard for Ukraine. Syrians in the capital, Damascus, are observing their first Ramadan in more than 5 decades free of the Assad family rule. Bashar al-Assad, president of 24 years, was overthrown in early December in a dramatic rebellion led by the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham group. And this year, Damascenes say the feeling and customs of the holy month have been restored.
Last Ramadan, it didn't even feel like Ramadan. You couldn't really tell, but now it is obvious. Restaurants are closed, people are not openly breaking their fast. You can see that no one is smoking and no one is casually eating in the street.
Spain's economy outpaced all of Europe and the US in 2024, fueled by an influx of foreign workers. The government now plans to regularize nearly 1 million more workers, which is a stark contrast to US policies on foreign labor.
Aquí en Guisona te sientes como...
Here in Guisona, it feels like living in a house with people from different countries. And that's a good thing, because you get to meet people from other cultures and backgrounds. There's always something new to learn, and someone more knowledgeable than you. It's really great. I feel at home.
Y entonces, pues siempre hay ese... Y la verdad es que está muy bien, es como en casa.
Bonaire relies heavily on foreign labour, with 40% of its 5,000-strong workforce being foreign-born. Its model for success has been replicated across businesses in Spain.
Thank you very much for giving time to Amir Shekel 5858. I am Amir Shekel. Have a good life. Bye-bye.